Hey everybody, it is Big Mike, aka the Computer Dad, and I am here with my friend Studious Bear to unbox the Slate 7 Wi-Fi 7 travel router. Let's get into it. I love unboxing videos, and we can see here the GL-iNET KVM hiding in the background of its big brother, the GL-3600 Slate 7 Wi-Fi 7 travel router. This is great. I had one of these before, as I mentioned later in the video. I had one of these before. It was the predecessor. It was a small blue unit. It was Wi-Fi 6, I believe, or some variation of that, maybe Wi-Fi 5. Anyway, I had one, and I thought it was excellent because I used to take it everywhere with me when I would travel on site for client work, or if I traveled just if I was getting work done on my vehicle and I was at a Ford shop or something like that. I was able to connect into their network and then downstream have all of my devices connected to a trusted network. So it was a quick setup. Out of the box here, we have all of our Let's Get Started information with the QR codes. We also have the international plug heads that work with the power brick. Now, I struggled here for a moment as I pull everything off. I was not able to figure out how to get the standard, what I believe is the NEMA outlet for the US, off of the power brick. So if anybody has a tip or trick, you can leave that in the comments. I'd appreciate it because I could not get that thing off. I ended up just putting it back in defeat here in a moment because I couldn't figure it out. As we go to the rest of the contents in the box, you have the travel router itself. You also have a USB-C to USB-C cable. The power brick itself is USB-C, and obviously the travel router is powered by USB-C in the rear. It also has a USB-A port, and that can be used to tether your cell phone to this device. I might have mentioned that a moment ago, but you can tether your cell phone to this device, get LTE service, and use that as a source for internet with this travel router. There's three ways you can do that. You can do that as a wireless repeater. You can connect it via Ethernet cable into the 2.5 gigabit WAN port, or you can tether it to a mobile device that has hotspot functionality and it can share that LTE service. On here, you can see on the side, we have a custom button that is a mode function button. What I did on my old system, my old travel router, is that was to turn on and off the VPN service. So just a quick way to do that without having to go into the UI and click it on. The other button is a reset button to just factory reset this entire unit. All of this stuff is really, really cool. So when you unpack everything, I just kind of set it all around, see what's inside of it. But I like to fire these things up right away because it takes a second to boot. This was an interesting problem. I thought maybe I had the wrong connector. This is really tight. So GL-iNET, if you're watching, that was really tough to plug in. I got lucky on the other side, but that had me worried that maybe I had the wrong equipment in the box for a second there, just because I thought the USB-C cable wasn't going to fit. But as we plug it in, everything fired up without problem. It's really a sleek looking unit. Everything feels sturdy. It has some heft to it itself. It's not a light unit by any means. The other one was a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, but I love this. I think it's really sharp looking. This has been out for a while, but I remember seeing the touchscreen on it, and I was just impressed with how clean it looks. So we're going to fast forward here through the boot up process and get into the real meat and potatoes. It's almost Thanksgiving. Get into the real meat and potatoes of this travel router and into the configuration. All right, now that we have the unit unboxed, we're going to go ahead and set it up via Wi-Fi. There's also an option to set it up LAN to LAN, so you can connect the LAN port of this device to the LAN port of your PC and do it that way. In this case, I'm going to set it up wirelessly, but I have gone over to my Ubiquiti system and set up one of my switches so that I have a test bench network on a port so that I can connect this device to it. And you can see I already tested it out, made sure it connected, made sure it got on the right network. And just to show what that looks like behind the scenes, and I'll move myself out of the way here. The Ethernet port profile is assigned to VLAN 30, and that's just a VLAN I'm using for test benching. Anything I don't want talking to any of my other networks, just getting out to internet access, that's what I drop it onto. And you can see I black holed some of my other networks, and that's just a VLAN so that if you plug into one of those ports, you ain't getting anything. You ain't going nowhere. Do not pass go. So now we're going to set this up via wireless. We're going to get this queued up so that we can start using the travel router and see what the interface looks like both on the touchscreen and from the web UI. This should be really cool. I've set some of these up before. I had a previous travel router, the prior generation of this, the Wi-Fi 6, I believe it was the version. It was a little blue one, but it has since gone bye-bye. So now I get to use the fun new one. So we'll get in the interface, we'll set this up, and we'll start testing it out from a wireless perspective and see what it's all about behind the scenes. Okay, so there is an option to scan the QR code, as you saw when I went up to the touchscreen to connect to it. But also the password for the SSID is on the back of the device. So we're going to do this on the computer and connect to it that way. So we'll get into our Wi-Fi networks here. We'll identify that device. It's attempting to connect. I have the password here. Get it back here. And then we'll get connected. By default, it should bring us to a 192.168.8 network. So we can hit open browser. We'll bring that down. Now we get to start setting this thing up. So we're going to, okay, with the password set, it is giving us the opportunity to set up Wi-Fi. We're going to leave it by default. I'll change this later, but just to see what it does, we'll hit next. And then I will get a shot of what's going on down here on the device itself. All right, so now it's giving us the opportunity to connect to the internet. So it has a few networking functions. Ethernet via Ethernet cable to the WAN port. It can connect to a primary router as a wireless repeater, say primary router 5 times fast. And then tethering to a cell phone, which is done through the USB port on the rear of the device. In this case, we're going to set it up with that test bench port that I had configured prior on my Ubiquiti device. So we have this test bench port, network's offline because I'm wirelessly disconnected. Test bench VLAN 30, that way everything going into this device is just going out my test bench network. Not going to touch anything on my other production networks. So let's go ahead and get that cabled up and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so now that we have it connected, it is getting DHCP from my network, and let's see if we can find it here quickly on the Ubiquiti system. There we go. 192.168.30 VLAN 30 up and running. So now this is basically doing what's called double NAT. So it's going to bounce out my private network to my backend public network out to the internet. And that way it gives me the ability to kind of carve this up however I want to from a Wi-Fi perspective. Also from what I remember from the other travel router that I configured, I can create my own LAN downstream from this device. So I can create my own separate subnet, my own separate Wi-Fi and SSIDs, and do all kinds of fanciness with it, which it looks like the interface is very similar to the one that I configured before. So I'm not expecting too much of a difference there. Then we can see here, Ethernet 1. I can set this to static if I so choose, but I'm not going to. This is where it really benefits. So let's say you have a Ethernet port in a hotel or something like that, or like I sometimes do, pull it out of the TV and use it for my stuff. I can plug it into the back of this and it'll pick up DHCP from that, so long as there's not some kind of port security or anything that would otherwise down the access port into that hotel room. I can plug it into this unit and then get that network, and then downstream is my own private network. And then I'll show in probably a separate video, there's also a VPN component that you can add to this so you can make your connectivity even more secure when you are traveling. So you can see here I have one WLAN wireless LAN client, which is my workstation that I'm on right now. I have Ethernet connected. I have 5G 2.4, and that is cool. So it has it set up so that I can get the QR codes. This is something that if you have individuals that you'd want to connect via cell phone, you don't feel like giving them the SSID and PSK, as we call it, or password, you can give them a QR code and it loads that automatically. You may have experience with that before, but it's pretty cool. I want to frame my guest Wi-Fi in a picture frame and put it at the entry door. So it's like, look, don't ask me for my Wi-Fi information. Scan it, get on my network, and enjoy your 10 meg throttle limit. And also your splash screen, because I use the Ubiquiti splash screen that says you're lucky to be on my Wi-Fi network. I'm cool like that. All right, So now we look at the configuration. We could start touching the wireless configuration, modifying the wireless configuration, and setting up the network downstream from those wireless IDs. You can look at clients. You can see that that's my PC connected, network, port forwarding. We discuss the LAN. What the downstream is, the 192.168.8.1 network, and that's a /24 or 255.255.255.0 for those studying for your CCNA or Net Plus. This is the DHCP scope downstream. We can also modify that. We can do address reservations. We can get a MAC address and tie that to a specific DHCP address, so that way it doesn't lease that out to anything else. A whole bunch of stuff here, whole bunch. This is just getting under the hood of the travel router. As we continue through setting this up, I'm going to do some content on connecting wireless devices to it, how we can get the VPN stood up. But this was a general unboxing, setting it up on a secure network. At least in my case, you don't have to do that, but I use my secure network to be able to control clients on and off, and there's no connectivity to anything else. So I keep it secure when I'm test benching things, hence the reason it's called a test bench. But this is really cool. I love this thing. I mean, this is something I plan on, I'm going to a conference soon, so I plan on bringing this with me and controlling everything downstream. And there was, Crosstalk IT does a lot of stuff with the GL-iNET. I also have the KVM system that I've been testing around with. I have one of the Jet KVMs as well. The GL-iNET team came out with a Jet KVM type of KVM system similar to this little guy. Anyway, I'm rambling, getting excited about all the tech that I can play with. What I want to do is get this set up so that I can take it to the conferences or anywhere that I go and downstream my devices already connect to it. And that's one of the things that Crosstalk had shown, is the ability for taking this wherever, setting it up with whatever network you get wherever you go, but downstream all your devices know this wireless network, so you're not constantly having to reconnect things and do a whole bunch of stuff. I'll link his videos in the comments because I think he does an excellent job of highlighting those features and functionalities of these cool little travel routers. Just fun stuff to take around, fun tech to play around with if you have the time. All right, we will get into the rest of the configuration, messing around with the VLAN. Next time I connect and set this up and start recording, it's probably going to have a whole new LAN network, whole new SSID, all of the above. And if I can get time for it, I'm going to set that VPN back up. I had that set up on the old system in the old travel router. So that'll be cool. I'll show you what I've done there. Again, Crosstalk Solutions helped me do that through, I forget what it was. I think it was OpenVPN. It was something. It was cool. I'll re-record it and put it up. Anyway, on to the next one. See you later, nerds.